Alright guys, so one of the things that I talked to you guys in the past was about this this mimic knife, and the AKU Strike is called, the AKU Strike Mimic. And the thing that I liked about it was the fact that it lit up, that it required a decent amount of pressure in order to be able to stab. It's not just a matter of just touching it and then guys get in the habit of just playing tag with the knife. And then also the cutting as well, in order to be able to get the light to light up. It's not just a matter of just touching the blade. You have to actually apply rearward pressure with a decent amount of force in order to get a cut. It also does not register backward pressure against the blade, which was another thing I was concerned about. So one of the things that I told you excuse me, in my last review of this was that I was going to go through and do a destructive review, but I wanted to put this thing to use in training, full contact, full force, and basically see how long it held down. Well, to be quite honest with you, I haven't been able to destroy the thing. It has worked flawlessly, with the exception of one issue that I did have at one point when I was jamming it in and really stabbing really hard. It got to the point where the light would light up, but the buzzer would not. That's the buzzer. But after I turned it off, turned it back on, it started working again. So I didn't have any more issues. I don't know if maybe it just kind of got stuck or what. But again, I didn't have any issues, and I still don't have any issues. So promised you guys a destructive test, and I was going to destroy this thing and basically show you how to rebuild it and repair it, if in fact it can be. So let's go through it. And basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to go beyond what I would do even in a normal force-on-force hardcore training environment, and I'm just going to go teeing off on this bag until I can get this thing to break and see what happens. So let's see. Okay, so did get the blade to break. Took about 3 strikes, but literally I'm taking this thing and I am punching straight through this bag. Not sure if you can really see it or not. Did not cut through the bag or anything, but the blade itself did break off, and with no sharp edges or anything like that, to where I don't have to worry about a safety issue. So now let's go through the process and see what it's going to take to fix it. Alright, so taking this thing apart, you can see that it still works. If I press down on the blade, still lights up. If I put it on the audio, you know, it's still working fine. That's not really the issue. One thing that I did go ahead and do off camera was I went ahead and just took this clip off, because it's an enormous pain in the ass and you don't need to listen to my cussing and screaming. So basically what you're going to have is you're going to have a bunch of Allen wrenches, and then you're going to have one Phillips. That Phillips is for your battery door, so it doesn't really matter necessarily which way you take it out, but you do need to take this clip off, because when that clip is on, the last bolt that's in there is actually behind that clip, so you do have to take that off. I'll just have this go a little bit faster and just use a socket here, or use a drill. So we'll take that off. And then the last one with the Phillips screwdriver, and you'll see that it is a tad bit longer than these other ones here, so just kind of keep them all together and remember where that one goes. So once you got all this off, that battery door will swing open, and you can drop your batteries out and just kind of set them off to the side, and then you can remove this first part of this cover, and this just exposes a blank spot here. The battery door can come off at this point, and if you flip it over, you'll see that this opens up. Let me try and get it without the springs popping out everywhere. Okay, so you can see kind of how this is put together here. You have a spacer down here which is movable. just kind of blocks off, I think this is probably the speaker device down here. And then these springs that are in here are what gives you that feedback for cutting and stabbing. So that pay attention to this wire because it runs down a channel and then it fits behind like a little hook, and I'll show you that in just a minute. You just pull this out. Make sure you don't lose those springs. Just kind of pull that wire off, and then here's the broken blade right here, and you can see how this plays into the new blade. It's just got that little hook edge right there which is going to catch the wire, and then that channel that runs down here fits in. So the best way to do this, go ahead and take this spring out of here for right now. The best way to do this, I think, is you'll see that right here there's these two little notches, and that's what the LED bulb, there's a shoulder on that LED bulb, and that's what that needs to fit into. So I would start there, and all I'm going to do is set that LED down inside and just press it in, and that's it. And you'll see the whole controller board comes out. It's not that big a deal. You could pull it out. Just make sure you don't bend anything, and run those wires behind there, and just make sure that they're all down in that groove in the channel. Drop it back down inside, and then don't forget this piece here. This piece here will fit in with that point facing upward. Alright, so now that this is in, all those wires are tucked away, they're all routed into the channel. Now we're just going to get the spring put in. Start up here. You'll see that there's a little tit or indention right there. That's where the edge of that spring goes in. Just going to put it in there and then pry it downwards to fit inside that groove. So that's down in there. Take the other one, you'll put it in, press it down, and then just kind of hold everything down with your thumb while you put that top back on. We'll get the battery tray here in just a second. So once that's all in, we'll set that back down like that. Set this back down over the top, covering up that other edge, and then we'll start reassembling. So starting up in here, just kind of put a couple screws up top to get it to kind of hold, and I leave the bottom loose. Sorry about that. I leave the bottom loose so that these little pins for these hinges that are on both sides can fit inside these holes that are inside. So set that down, and then you can go ahead and put your Phillips in, and that'll hold your battery tray. And then that battery tray should swing. Loosen that up just a little bit until I'm ready to go. So that should swing pretty freely. And you could take your batteries. Plus side is showing there. The plus side is the flat side on the battery. Set both of the flat sides, both of the plus sides downward, and then sweep it in. Tighten that up, and then put the rest of your screws in. And you'll see that that's all there is to it. And you can put that clip back on if you want. It's just 3 screws in there, these real tiny screws here. I had to use a really fine Allen wrench in order to do it, and wanted to tear my eyes out. So anyway, alright, so everything's back in. Buzzer works, blade works, the cutting edge works, the back side does not illuminate. stabbing works, but it's not real sensitive, so everything is working just the same way it did. So that's pretty much it. The Mimic knife works real well. The amount of force that I was using to actually stab on that bag, if I were doing this on an individual, even in force on force, I'd do serious injury even with just the blunt plastic edge. But talking to the manufacturer, what he had indicated to me is that the blade has been designed to break off and to do so in such a manner that that it doesn't cause injury, but it requires a pretty good amount of force. And that's exactly what you want in force on force. You want the blade to break before injury. You don't want this thing to be so hard and so stiff and so rigid that you actually do permanent injury to your trading partner. That's why we have metal blades and stuff for using like a reduced force type of scenario. So that being said, that's the AKU Strike Mimic Knife, and that's our destructive review and repair. All right, you guys train hard.